Lyra's POV. I ran my hand through my wavy hair in frustration. How could I have let him see me like that? I haven't had a dream like that in years. Why now? Sniffing the air, there was something about this place that smelled familiar, not in a good way. My pacing increased as I walked in circles around Blake's luxurious bathroom. I swear this room was as big as my old apartment. It had navy blue accents, with black marble tops and off-white walls. Overall, it matched his bedroom. When I woke up, I looked around to find a gray fluffy carpet, white walls, but the wall on the left, hand side, was a dark blue color instead of white, and black bedding sheets and pillows. Secretly, I loved it. I wish I could say that I hated the decor, but that would be a lie. I never liked pinks, purples, or yellows. I always stuck with dark and boyish colors. I honestly don't think I owned one piece of pink clothing. Girls always looked at weirdly, because I never wore light colors. Some even went so far to call me goth. Some even said I cut myself. Typical high school. Blake was still sleeping. Well, I hoped he was. After last night, he refused to leave the room till I told him what was wrong, so I let him stay there. I'm pretty sure it's around 11 in the morning, but for some weird reason Blake doesn't have any clocks in his room. Opening the door quietly, I checked to see if Blake was asleep. His light snoring reached my ears and I sprinted towards the door. I felt seriously hungry, and I would probably kill any person who got in the way of my food. Sighing in relief, I closed the door behind me and smelt the air for food. It kind of seemed like a dream that I shifted into my wolf already, but the telltale signs of shifting were becoming clearer to me. I could see, smell, and hear better. And when I was sprinting to the door, I got there twice as fast as I would have if I hadn't have shifted. Turning corner after corner, there was no one in sight. It seemed as if you weren't allowed to be in this part of the pack house. I was guessing that it was the alpha's wing, and only the mate of the alpha and the beta and his mate were allowed here. The beta and his mate probably have a part of the pack house to themselves as well. Approaching a large door, it had intricate designs everywhere, and at the top of the door it said Alpha and Luna. The door was at least 3 times my size. Ah, I acknowledged out loud, nodding my head in realization. Wonder where the beta's wing is. Talking to yourself? You know that's the first sign of madness, right? An annoying voice said behind me. Narrowing my eyes, I turned around with a huff. I'm not going mad, I said matter-of-factly. Blake raised his eyes in amusement. Second sign is denial, he chuckled. I rolled my eyes and let out a sarcastic laugh. Hearty haha, very funny there. You should become a comedian. Maybe I will, he teased, and reached around me to turn the knob of the door. Stepping out into the hallway, he led me through different rooms and stairways. We stopped in front of a glass door. Pushing it open, he smiled and winked at me. Grunting, I slid past him into the room. We ended up in a kitchen. How did you know? You haven't eaten since yesterday afternoon. I can also feel your hunger. I'm scared you'll eat me, he answered. I wasn't sure if I should be offended about the last part of what he said, or flattered that he remembered, or cared that I was hungry. I kind of felt like tearing my hair out. Okay, well, I want to eat, so get me some food, I demanded, pointing towards the kitchen. He gave me a crooked smile, before mock saluting me and saying, yes, sir. I let that one slip while taking a seat at the counter. He picked up a pan and grabbed some strips of bacon from the bench next to him. Well, I think it was bacon. You can cook? I asked curiously. Most guys in my old pack refused to cook, something about it being a woman's job or duty. That kind of made me angry, but the women didn't care. They just cooked anyway. Except me, I can't cook shit to save my life, so most of the women in the pack avoided asking me help them cook, also because I was part of the pack's army. Yes, he replied slowly. Is there something wrong with that? Shaking my head. I knew I would be saved because at least we wouldn't have to order take, away all the time, or constantly ask the chef, which I'm sure he had one. Nope, but I'm warning you, I can't cook anything, like anything, I said, waiting for his reply. His bark of laughter took me by surprise. You can do everything but perform a simple wifely duty, he chuckled. I froze. Did he just say wife? Choosing to ignore that part, I moved on with the conversation. I also can't clean. For some weird reason, I have trouble doing anything that involves basic house maintenance stuff and cooking. Trust me, I've tried. I said truthfully. I always managed to damage my house furthermore, so it was easier to just call someone in to clean the house and order take away when I'm hungry. Most of my kitchen appliances at home were barely used. Have you even tried? He asked, a small smirk plastered on his face. Yes, I have. When I tried scrubbing the wall from my attempt at cooking, I used the wrong stuff and my wall turned blue. I tried getting that off, but I punched a hole through the wall. When I tried washing the dishes, I couldn't get them clean and ended up using the dishwasher, which flooded my apartment. I don't even want to mention what I did to my car, I explained. I completely trashed my car. It was soaked inside and out, and I ended up using the wrong product in cleaning it, making it turn rusty and weak. Since then, I went to a car wash. God, Lee, what am I supposed to do with you? You can't cook, you can't clean, and you have anger issues. He ducked when he saw my hand coming to punch his face. See what I mean? He cried. Taking my hand back, I realized I probably did have some anger issues. Oh well, all shifters have them. What do you mean? What are you supposed to do with me? Nothing. Don't worry about it, he chuckled, tipping the bacon onto a plate and handing it to me. Huffing, I stuffed my face into the strips of meat, which turned out to be bacon. Let's play 20 questions, he said cheerfully, looking up. I raised an eyebrow before nodding my head in agreement. What is your favorite color? He asked, deciding to choose the most cliché question in the books. Swallowing my food, I knew my answer straight away. Navy blue. Hate pinks, purples and yellows, I answered, waiting for him to tell me what was his. He frowned and looked kind of scared and nervous for a moment. Navy blue? You're not just saying that because that's mine, are you? I questioned, still smiling cheekily. I thought of a question I should ask him. Desert, snow or forest? Forest, he immediately answered. Most wolves choose that. Same. Blake's POV. Damn, this wasn't good. I would have to change most of her wardrobe. Now I realized why she didn't have any of those colors in her suitcases. I thought it was because of a coincidence, so I bought her all these lighter colors for her. I would probably have to change the style slightly as well. I don't think she liked frilly dresses. Looking at what she was wearing now, she was wearing dark blue skinny jeans with black combat boots and a loose white singlet with the words "Haters Gonna Hate" printed in black. I knew I shouldn't have listened to that shop assistant. She was so happy and cheerful, it creeped me out. She kept piling dresses and skirts with white skinny jeans and wedges and frilly tops with pinks dominating the color choices. I really have to change the clothes before we head to our house today. We stopped playing 20 questions when I had to take a phone call. She was wandering around the house. The pack was still restless about what happened yesterday. I mean, fuck, that's not normal for a mated couple. Sure, they have fights sometimes, but never that bad. Groaning, I picked up my phone and dialed Kyle, my beta. Waiting for him to pick up, I sighed in relief when he did. Hey man, what's up? Kyle asked. Is there something wrong? Yeah, there is, I breathed. You know those clothes I bought? Well, yeah, when I talked to her today, she indirectly told me that she hated the types of clothing that I bought for her. She hasn't seen them yet, but I need Alice to return them, or you. Can you do that? I asked quickly, desperately hoping he'd say yes. Yeah, sure. I'll ask my mate to do that. Just tell me which shop you bought them from. You know Alice is crazy about shopping. While she's there, she can buy some different ones for your mate. He told me. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I would do it myself, but I planned to move in tonight with her, and I couldn't leave her alone. She might run off again. But then again, I angered her when it happened. Telling him the clothing brands, he asked what shops I would her clothes bought from. Probably Gap, Abercrombie and Fitch, Wet Seal, and maybe Diesel. I said, those types of shops, not the girly ones. I hastily added in. I knew Kyle wasn't writing this down. He had an amazing memory and could remember anything he wanted too. But his mate, Alice, had the memory of a fish. She always had to write things down. Yep, gonna write those down for her. You know what she's like? If her head wasn't screwed on, she'd lose it, he chuckled. We all made a joke of how forgetful she was. She was pretty used to it by now. Thanks, man. I owe you one, I said truthfully. Nah, don't worry about it. I can tell she's a handful. Let me guess, constantly yells at you and uses you as a boxing bag, he guessed, laughing to himself. Yeah, you've pretty much got that one right, but for some weird reason I still want her around. It's hard. She's fine one moment, then the next she's blowing steam out of her ears. I admitted. She can also resist an alpha command? Tell me, how does that work? I also have to talk to you about some weird stuff happening. Can you get Alice to take my maid out shopping so I can discuss it with you? It's really important. Whoa, you're joking. An alpha command? Even I can fight against one of those. She probably cracked the shits at you for that one. He chuckled, not helping me at all. But yeah, I'll get Al to come over to take Lyra out somewhere. Is it really bad? He asked, a concerned tone in his voice. It's not bad, but it's definably not right. It kind of feels like I'm living in a dream. But trust me, it's seriously important. Once I get Lee sorted out, everything will turn back to normal. You won't have to do everything. I told him, wincing on the inside, I've dumped a whole load of work on him this week. It's cool, I understand. Alice was a handful when I first met her, except yours seems more feisty, stubborn, and a lot more of a fighter. Don't worry about it. Being mates is a two-way job. It's not all about getting her into mating life. She has the responsibility as well, he informed me. It felt like someone had poured a bucket of ice down my face. All this time, I treated her as if she was the one who needed to be adjusted and straightened out, when I was just as clueless as she is now. Shit, you're right. How come I never realized? I wondered. I've really got to open my eyes, huh? Anyway, we're moving in tonight. Do you think that Alice can take out the clothes right now or soon? Yeah, sure. Oh wait, she just back from the day. Care. I'll tell her right now. See you soon. Bye. He rushed, and I heard the line go dead. Someone's in a rush, I thought to myself. Hearing the door slam, I jumped up to see Lyra angrily walk past the lounge room nearest to the entrance. The one I was in, stupid, horny teenage boys. Kill them one day. Deserve to get punched in the face, she muttered, walking past me. What about horny teenage boys? My wolf growled outraged, clawing at my skull. I started shaking as my wolf was sending ideas about what the horny teenage boys could have done to her. A growl accidentally escaped my lips, and I clamped a hand roughly over my mouth. Her muttering stopped, and she turned around, shaking her head as if to get out of a trance. What happened? I said through gritted teeth, my wolf desperate to take control. She unclenched her fists and took some deep breaths. I guess we both had wolf and anger issues. 2 boys were harassing Jennifer. I put them in their place, she told me in an angry tone. What I was worried about was what she meant about putting them in their place. What did you do to them? I smirked, loving and hating the idea of her bashing their faces in. Whenever since did I become such a sadist, and to my own pack? She was a bad influence. But you love it, my wolf teased. Now listen. I punched both of them in the face and gave them a wedgie, telling them that if I caught them doing that again, their balls would be ripped off, she said seriously. They both made the mistake of trying to fight back and deny it, she added at the end. Cocking my head to the side, I realized she could have done worse, but I knew she wasn't telling me something. She probably noticed that I knew she did something else because her lip twitched, and a chuckle broke through her serious facial expression. I may have also, she started, but was interrupted when 2 16-year-old boys came running through the packhouse's doors. Alpha! Alpha! There's a crazy girl who punched us in the face and, oh! They came to a stop in front of us. They looked at Lyra with a scared expression, and I knew these were the 2 boys. I decided to play along and see what lie they would tell me. But when my heightened sight caught onto something on their forehead, I could help but burst out laughing. You, oh God! I gasped through my laughter, but cleared my throat when I saw the displeased and embarrassed expressions on their faces. On their foreheads were the words, I'm a pussy, and the other one said, lick my cunt. Turning towards her, I gave her a disbelieving look before turning back towards the 2 boys. Luckily, their hair was long enough to over their forehead, but then I realized that they didn't have a shirt on. Turn them around, she whispered in my ear, low enough so they wouldn't hear her. With my hand, I gestured for them to turn around. They turned around reluctantly. Red tinged the tops of their ears. Anybody got a condom? Because I'm a dickhead. I read the blonde's one, and on top of the writing was a drawing of a dick and an arrow pointing upwards. Lyra released a laugh, and sent me a cheeky smile. Looking over the other one's back, it had the same writing as the other one. Telling the boys to turn back around, they both had anger and embarrassment lurking in their eyes. "Alpha, aren't you going to punish this girl for punching and drawing on us?" they said in disgust. They obviously didn't know that this girl was my mate and their alpha female. I would have, but then I heard that you both were harassing Jen. Am I wrong? I smirked. They both couldn't lie to their alpha. Everyone knew it was virtually impossible. Well, yes, the brunette stuttered. The blonde one nudged him and gave him a scowl. I would have punished you. I trailed off, but it seems my mate beat me to it. I smiled softly at her and wrapped my arm around her waist, drawing her closer to me. Luckily, she knew my reasons for doing this, to make sure they caught the point. You keep telling yourself that, my wolf smirked. He knew I was secretly enjoying that fact that she was close to me. Alpha female, they cried, and immediately bowed their heads. I could smell fear radiating from them. Well, you can leave us. I suggest putting a shirt on, though. It won't come off for a while. Lee warned with amusement. Damn, she's evil. How the fuck did she have a permanent marker on her? I asked Jen to give me a permanent marker. She happily complied. She shrugged. She even helped me write some of it. She didn't notice that I was still holding on to her, and unintentionally I gripped her tighter because of the thought of letting her go. Man, I was getting whipped. That was a classic, you know? I chuckled. She nodded in agreement, a smile twitching on her lips. Her beautiful, pouty, soft-looking. Snap out of it. I don't know what happened, but I started getting horny off her mouth. Is that normal for mates? Then I felt her hand start tugging my arm, a frustrated look on the face. Come on, I'm hungry, she whined. Rolling my eyes, I led her to the kitchen and took out the ingredients for spaghetti bolognese. She was cute when hungry. Boiling the water, I wondered how I'd tell her we were moving into my house tonight. I'm praying that Alice had taken the clothes out. Ah, Lee, you do know that we're moving to my house tonight, don't you? I asked tentatively, worried that she would explode. Checking the bond, she didn't express any feelings of anger. She was perfectly calm. Yeah, I do, she stated simply. You don't mind? I was kind of expecting some yelling at least. Nope, no really. I virtually spent 2 whole days alone with you. I'm sure I can manage, she alleged, shrugging her shoulders. Whoa, did not see that one coming. Putting the spaghetti in, I mixed it a bit with a long metal spoon. Starting on the sauce, I heard my mobile ring. Hello, Blake Wilson speaking. I spoke while stirring the sauce. Hey man, let me guess, cooking? Kyle teased. I grunted. Yeah, is the house clean? I stressed the word clean so Lee wouldn't overhear about the clothes. What? Oh yeah, your house is clean, he said confused. He can never get secret messages. Hey Lyra, how much sauce do you want? I asked loudly, making sure Kyle heard. Doesn't matter. I'll eat anything. Don't you give me that look. You know I didn't mean it like that, she cried. Kyle burst out laughing. Her eyes were wide and frantic, and her hands were lifted above her head. Good one. Anyway, your house is clean and ready to be in. Have fun, he finalized before hanging up. Here, I handed her the plate of spaghetti and sat down with my own next to her. I gave her the same amount as I have, but I didn't expect her to eat it all. I saw her lick her lips before she dug in. I lost all thoughts as I ate the spaghetti, and before I knew it, I had finished the whole lot. Looking over at her plate, she had only eaten 1/4 of it. You're a slow eater, I joked. She swallowed what she was eating before looking at me. Actually, this is my 2nd serve. Technically, you're the slow eater here, she stated matter-of-factly, and then started eating again. How the hell did she eat so much? I could barely eat a whole bowl of that stuff. Waiting for her to finish, she easily ate the whole bowl without any struggle. How did you? I eat a lot more than that usually, and also I have fast metabolism. She reached over her empty bowl and drank some of her orange juice. Shaking my head, I stood up, offering my hand. She ignored it and stood up herself. I frowned but didn't question it. We should get going to our house. You can meet the pack properly later on, I told her, and we headed upstairs to get her belongings. Lyra's POV. Looking out the window of the car, I was getting irritated with Blake's song choices. Pound the alarm, pound the alarm. Nicki Minaj's irritating voice filled my head. I was never a fan of her music and probably never will be. Growling, I reached over to change the channel, Just as I was about to press a different button, Blake's hand slaps me away. "Hey," I protested, reaching back to change it, only to be hit again. "I'm the driver here. I control the music." He argued, settling back into his seat. Huffing, I folded my arms under chest. "Just wait till I become the driver. I want to do it for the night. Nicki Minaj's voice continued. "So get me now and knock this over." Groaning, I banged my head on the dashboard. "I want to do it like you like, come get me, baby, we're not getting younger. I just want you tonight. Lifting my head from the dashboard, I furrowed my eyebrows, looking over at Blake. Was he for real? As if sensing my question, he winked at me and turned his gaze back to the road. "I hate you," I grumbled and turned my head away from him. "No, you don't. You love me," he sang. A smug tone in his voice, coughing, I smirked to myself. "You keep telling yourself that," I told him in a fake concerned voice. "Oh, you're mean," he pouted. I chuckled. "Did he just realize that?" "You just realized?" "No, I just worry for the safety of my family jewels," he said under his breath at the end. Unintentionally, I saw him cover the front of his pants with the hand that wasn't steering. The car turned silent as we were caught up in our own thoughts. The only noise was the thrumming of the engine. Taking my phone out of my pocket, I scrolled through my messages. One caught my eye. "How's it going with that maid of yours?" "Avery, holy shit, I had forgotten about her since I got here." Clicking the bar underneath, I typed a reply. He can be a bit of a dumbass. At least he can cook, you." I didn't expect a reply so soon from her, so when a message popped up, I was a bit startled. "Lol. Same here. We should catch up. Where are you right now?" she texted. "In the car, on the way to his house. Pack house was seriously huge. Feel like killing him. He has bad taste in music, won't let me change the station." I typed and bit my tongue when I sent the message. Waiting for a minute, I looked out the window. Trees and trees. Poor thing, must be hard, huh? I could just hear the teasing in her message. "It is hard when your mate wants to listen to Nicki Minaj." "Really?" "Whoa, didn't think the alpha of the Full Moon Pack would listen to her. I thought heavy metal or something." "Same." "Well, GTG. My mate is calling for me." I shuddered when I read that message. Did I really have to know that? "Who are you talking to?" I heard Blake ask, putting the phone back in my front pocket. I leaned back. "Just a friend," I told him with a shrug of my shoulders. He seemed to not like that answer. "Just a friend, huh?" he said lightly. "Boy or girl?" Raising my eyebrows, I gave him the "are you serious" look. When I didn't answer for a second, his eyes darkened to a dark blue, and a growl slipped through his sealed lips. "Calm down. It was a boy," I said seriously, waiting for his reaction. "What? A boy? What were you saying to him?" he asked in a demanding voice, his gray eyes shifting between black and navy blue. Lifting my hands in front of my face, I put on an innocent expression. "Whoa, dude. I was joking. No need to brake the car." I was pointedly looking at the suffocating steering wheel as his hands tightened around it. He seemed like he was fighting a battle with his wolf, and the car was accelerating and decreasing in speed in short, uneven bursts. "It was a girl, Blake. Calm the fuck down," I repeated slowly, trying to be the rational one here. He seemed to be in a bubble of his own and wasn't listening to what I was saying. He was shaking from anger, so I decided to calm him down the only way I knew. But it didn't mean that I liked it. Sighing in defeat, I put my left hand on his shaking arm and turned around slowly so that I could slide onto his lap. I could tell that he was watching me, but I could still feel his anger lurking in the bond we shared. Once I was fully on his lap, I placed both of my hands on his shoulders and started moving them back and forth. I felt the car slowly come to a stop, and I looked up to his black eyes. Knowing I had to take it further, I put my hands under his top and rubbed them over his stomach, trying to ignore the desire creeping within me from feeling his rock, hard abs. In the background, I could hear the Ballad of Mona Lisa playing, but I ignored it and gave Blake a hug. After a few seconds, I was about to pull away, but his arms tightened around me, and he mumbled something I couldn't hear. His shaking had ceased, but his breathing was still labored. Maybe I shouldn't have lied. Trying to get out of his iron grip again, I pushed back only to be pushed further into him. His arm tightened around my waist, and the other pushed my head into the crook of his neck. Damn, this was a bad idea. I should have just yelled at him to calm down. I'm not complaining, my stupid wolf smirked. It felt weird having someone talk in your head. Blake? I said, but I'm sure my voice came out muffled. No, stay, he whined. Don't move. My eyes widened as he squeezed me further into his chest. Was he trying to crush me to death? Can't breathe. Help! I chalked, making the situation sound worse than it seems. He'll have to let me go once he thinks he's hurting me, right? I felt him stiffen slightly, and a soft sigh escaped his mouth. Sorry, he cleared his throat, lifting me up with his muscled arms and placing me back onto my seat. Just don't do that again. My wolf went fucking crazy. I swear I've got a hole in my skull from him, he warned me. I didn't think you would react like that, I told him truthfully. I thought he would ask who it was, but I didn't think he would freak out like that. I sort of felt guilty. Looking back to the steering wheel, it had a slight dent on either side from his hand. It was really quiet when he started to drive again. I could tell he was distracted by something, but tried not to let it show. Besides, we're kind of in an awkward silence. The music was still playing, but the volume had been turned down, and I didn't really have the heart to change it, although my hand was itching to. You want to change it, don't you? Blake sighed, a small smile twitching at his lips. I didn't reply, but a wide grin was enough for him to know the answer. He pressed another button, and a different station came on. I accidentally let a giggle escape from my mouth, and I slapped a hand to my lips. A wide-eyed look probably took over my expression. Turning towards Blake, he looked highly amused. But I didn't care. I had just won. Stepping out of the car, a gasp got stuck in my throat. I love the person who designed this house. It was extremely modern, with the whole glass wood effect, with the odd accents of black, white, and dark blue. It was also huge with 3 stories. It wasn't as big as the pack house, but big nonetheless. The road was lightened since it was 6 at night, and the moon was out. Are we going to go in, or are we sleeping outside tonight? Blake joked and dangled a set of keys from his hands. I was too hyped up to be anything but excited, so I ran up to him and snatched the keys up. Running up the door, I could hear Blake laughing to himself, but I didn't think much of it as I steadily approached 2 large glass doors, outlined with cherry wood. Pushing the keys in, I twisted them and pushed the door open. Running in, I left the keys in the door for Blake. I'm pretty sure my mouth was open, as I was spinning around to take in the whole place. You live here? I cried in disbelief. This place was amazing. The entrance room was large, with a black coat hanger thing next to the door. The floor was a light oak and the walls were a light cream color. There were pictures of abstract art on the walls, with a small cherry wood table with fresh orchards in a glass vase. On the right there was an archway that leads into a large lounge room with a stone fireplace and a large plasma TV. The couches were made with white leather and were very sleek, and the coffee table was made out of glass with black outlining. Well, I do now. I had this built 2 years ago when I turned 18. I've only spent 1 night here. I looked at him shocked. 1 night? You're joking, I gasped. No way was he serious. This house was fucking amazing. I wanted to spend the rest of my life here, and I had only seen 2 rooms. Yeah, I know. It was tempting, but I felt like a loner living in a house like this by myself. The people who clean the house aren't very social. He told me. I nodded in understanding before admiring the room again. Okay, I think it's best if we get you out of this room. Besides, I'm sure you're hungry. He chuckled and pushed me out of the room. Rolling my eyes, I let him push me towards the kitchen. After all, I was hungry. Passing the other room, I couldn't help but stare. They were all so modern and amazing. I'm pretty sure Blake was worried for me because of my very noticeable excitement at a house. Who gives a shit? I liked furniture. Sue me. Walking into the kitchen, the person who designed it somehow managed to make the kitchen match with the rest of the house's decor. It had black wood cabinets with silver pipe handles and white stone tops. The stoves, ovens, fridges, and sinks were all silver. Looking around the cabinets, I noticed one was slightly bigger than the rest and had some silver buttons on the left-hand corner, the dishwasher. There was also an island counter with red bar stools around one side. The floor was an unpolished gray tile. Like? Blake grinned devilishly, knowing that my answer would be yes. Not bothering to answer, I turned around to study the rest of the overly big kitchen. There was also a white stone table for 8 people, with black wood chairs to match, and a tall square vase made of glass, filled with proteas. Also, there were terracotta clay pots placed around the edges of the walls filled with different types of herbs and spices. Feeling Blake walk away, I spun around to see him walk up to the fridge and pull out 2 frozen pizzas from the freezer. He smiled cheekily at me before placing them in the oven. "Cheap," I gasped in mock horror, my smile giving me away. I could live on frozen pizzas. I've been most of the time, once I got out of foster care. "Hey, if you don't want them, you can cook yourself." Damn, he got me there. He knows I can't cook. After I didn't reply, he laughed at me and then plopped down on one of the bar stools. Following after him, I sat on one of the bar stools next to him. "You should cook for me. Show me what you can do," he told me after a while. Whipping my head around to look at him, I raised a disbelieving eyebrow. "There's literally nothing I can do. I'm hopeless at cooking, and if you really want me to cook for you, then have a plate of food set aside for when I serve up to you a plate full of burnt shit," I said to him seriously. My cooking always turned disastrous. My teachers always wondered why I chose cooking as an elective when I couldn't even cook. I just didn't it, because I thought that they would at least teach me basics. Turns out I couldn't even crack an egg without doing something wrong. I'm sure I'll manage. How about this? Tomorrow you cook me an omelette? It takes a whole lot of things to go wrong to screw that one up," he suggested, cringing. I knew that wouldn't turn out good. "You do have house and hospital coverage, right?" I asked him warily. "Yeah, of course, why?" he asked, confused. Oh, he has no idea. Lyra's POV. Staring at the saucepan, I wasn't sure how I should exactly hold it. Right now, Blake was making cooked breakfast for him, or more specifically, an omelette. I had 2 eggs in front of me, a spatula, a cookbook, and some spices. Reading the recipe for the 5th time, I was still really confused. Was it adding butter to the pan, or to the eggs? All it said was to add butter. "Need some help there?" Blake asked with a hint of amusement laced through his voice. Shaking my head, my pride wouldn't let me have Blake help me. After all, how hard was cooking an egg? Following the instructions, I tuned the heat onto 200 degrees and waited for it to heat up. Hearing the pan start to sizzle, I frowned at how hot the heat the pan was radiating. Was it supposed to be that hot? Blake didn't seem to be affected, as he was reading the news on his tablet. When I woke up this morning, my bed seemed warm on the opposite side of where I was sleeping, and I could smell Blake's scent. I didn't bring it up when he entered my room to get me out of bed. I let him sleep in our room, while I slept in a guest room a couple doors down, much to Blake's displeasure. The next instructions were to crack an egg and pour it into the pan. So I did what it said. Only when I was cracking it over the pan, I cracked the shell into millions of pieces by accident, and it all fell onto the middle of the pan in a gloopy mess. I'm sure Blake wouldn't mind a little bit of shell, right? Taking a deep breath, I stirred the egg and shell with the spatula, but for some reason, it started to stick to the pan and half of it was turning black. So I put the other egg in it. I managed to salvage half of the egg's shell this time, and again I stirred the egg, trying to make it into a pancake shape thingy. Looking over to my right, I saw the spices sighting there. Since the omelette was turning black, I thought I should add something to make it taste better. Grabbing the pepper, I quickly sprinkled a tablespoon full of the brown, black stuff into the egg and started to stir again. Okay, this was really confusing. Looking back and forth between the picture on the recipe and my omelette, they looked nothing alike. I had put the omelette onto a plate for Blake, and I was comparing it with the picture. The picture one looked perfect, and a golden yellow with a lovely circle shape, whereas mine looked black and a pale yellow with huge brown chunks here and there. There was even a couple raw orange bits, and of course, bits of the shell I accidentally dropped in. Not to mention, it looked more like an ancient pyramid than a flat circle. Taking a deep breath, I brought the plate to Blake and placed it in front of him. When he didn't look up from his tablet, I let out an annoyed cough and watched as a grin formed across his mouth, until he saw my omelette. He stared at it blankly for a few seconds before his eyes met mine with a caution and horror. Is that your omelette?" He chalked, a frightened expression taking over his face. "Yes, what else would it be?" I asked slowly. What was he implying? Well, no problem. It's just... It looks like shit, and the stove's on fire, he hastily uttered at the end when he saw my narrowed gaze. Then I smelt it. Smoke. Spinning around, I quickly grabbed the fire extinguisher from the cabinet Blake showed me, and I sprayed it on the burning pan. I guess I forgot to switch it off. You forgot to turn the stove off, he blatantly told me. No shit, Sherlock. Pans don't catch fire from nothing. Did you figure that one out yourself, bud? Rolling his eyes at me, he ignored that comment. Seeming relatively calm for almost witnessing his kitchen burn up in flames, he stood up and walked towards the stove cautiously. 200 degrees Celsius, he yelled, and whipped his head around to look at me, and an accusing glare radiated from his gaze. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? He repeated, laughing humorlessly. What's wrong with that is that it's meant to be in Fahrenheit, not Celsius. This stove is set for Celsius. Don't blame this on me. I warned you about my non-existent cooking skills. It's not my fault you didn't mention that the stove is set for Celsius, I growled, crossing my arms under my chest. No wonder the eggs started burning straight away. I was meant to convert it. Well, if you hadn't been so immature and careless, maybe you would have noticed. Can't you read a fucking recipe? He yelled in frustration. Why was he getting so worked up about the temperature of a stove? I warned him I couldn't cook. Excuse me? Immature and careless. I read the recipe 6 times over. Don't go around assuming things. It's you at fault as well. How come you're getting so angry over a stove? I gritted through my teeth. Remaining calm was getting hard here. Sorry for worrying about your safety. A person tends to do that when bad stuff happens in their life. His voice cracked slightly in the end, but he cleared his throat, fixing that. Like what? What could be so bad that makes you spaz out like this? I exclaimed, throwing my hands up in the air. You probably wouldn't understand. After all, you're Miss Perfect. Nothing bad happens to you. He chuckled, but a hard edge was replacing the humor. I cringed on the inside, hurt. He has no idea. Clearing my throat, I masked all hurt expressions on my face and let the anger take over. How would you know, huh? What could be so horrible? I yelled back, giving up being calm. You want to know so badly? Well, how about having your parents murdered by rouges? He growled, his shoulders heaving up and down as if he couldn't get enough air into his lungs, just before your coronation for the title of Alpha. Well, how about being abandoned by your own parents at birth? I shot back. A surprised look came over his face before anger replaced it again. At least you never met them to know the pain of losing them, he argued, but I could see the doubt in his eyes at his own comment. It made me even angrier till I felt my wolf surfacing. At least you weren't kidnapped and raped, I screamed in rage. A torn and horrified look flashed across his eyes, and in mere seconds I saw all his anger dissipate. Gulping, I just realized I had dug a grave for myself. What? He whispered. Regret and a different type of anger washed over him like a tidal wave. I knew I was visibly shaking, but the memories kept creeping forward from the back of my mind, trying to haunt me. I shook my head and took a few retreating steps towards the door. No, he growled, his voice going a couple octaves lower. Tell me what happened. Tell him, my wolf urged, but I could still feel her pain. I didn't want him to ever know, especially that the nightmares have been coming back since 2 years ago. At least he didn't connect the dots when he saw the effect the dreams had on me. It doesn't matter, well, anymore, I insisted, hoping he would get the point. That didn't seem to be that case. Damn it, Lee, tell me what happened. I want to help you, he said softly, almost as if he was talking to a baby. That, of course, angered me. I hated when people did that to me. I won't fall to pieces if you say something wrong. You know, I'm not a child, I said blankly. He stood still for a moment. That was my chance. I sprinted out of the room and around the massive hallways, making sure there was a big gap between us. Seconds after I ran, I heard his big form bounding towards me at the same speed, if not faster. Lee, stop running. I know this house better than you. I'll catch you eventually. Not if I hide, I thought. I would rather delay it if it meant he would know later. After all, he probably wouldn't believe me. Skidding across the wooden floor, I was about to turn a corner when flat arms wrap around my waist and haul me back towards a muscled chest. Feeling his chest on my back, it made me feel safe and at home. which I didn't want. No, no. Let go of me, Blake. I swear to God. Never, he promised, confusing me. What was he? I'm not ever letting you go. You know that. He surprised me. I never heard him talk like he wanted me. Where had this suddenly come from? What are going on about Blake? Who is the motherfucker? He demanded, acting as though he never said any of those things a couple seconds ago. Okay, what the hell are you? Who is the motherfucker who raped you? He said slowly, as if I was too thick to process words spoken quickly. I scowled at him. I wasn't thick. When I didn't answer, I saw his anger tenfold, and a murderous growl came from his mouth. Tell me, he yelled, flipping me around to face him. I froze at his words. They were triggering a memory. Sorry, he quickly amended when he saw my expression. Just please tell me. I only want to help you. That was a first for me. You want to help me? Of course I do. Why wouldn't I? I low. But he stopped when he realized what he was about to say. I'd love to help you. He cleared his throat awkwardly, not meeting my gaze. Shrugging my shoulders, I realized I probably should tell him. Noticing a cream leather sofa behind Blake, I pushed him towards it and sat down next to him. Looking at me curiously, I knew he was waiting for me to break the silence. You're the first, I started, waiting for him to continue. What? You're the first to believe me. Or even ask who the guy is. I said seriously. Everyone else thought I was a stupid girl who didn't know the meaning of rape. I was 14 for crying out loud. You're joking, right? When he saw me shake my head, a growl burst through his mouth, but I continued. I was 14 when it happened. It was nearing the end of May. I was walking to the girls' home from detention. I knew I was going to get shit for being late because it was my turn to wash up. He nodded his head as if to say, keep going. And as cliché as this sounds, a black SUV with tinted windows was following me from behind. Of course, being the naive girl I was then, I thought that there was another reason why it was slowly trailing behind me. When I was a street away from the girl's home, it started to pick up its pace and drove beside me, and I freaked out slightly and increased my pace. What I didn't expect was for it to speed up along further in front of me and completely stop. I was going to cross the road when a man in black sweatpants and a gray baggy t-shirt ran out from the driver's seat and jogged towards me. I looked over at him to see his reaction. He looked confused and angry, incredibly angry. He grabbed me and muffled my screams with a rag that had chloroform in it. It didn't have a huge dosage, but enough to make me limp and unconscious in under a minute. When I woke up, I had the biggest migraine of my life. I also had a dry throat, and as it turns out, I was chained to a bed. When I said the last part, Blake growled again. It was louder and, if possible, angrier. After that, but the most sickening part was that he had a mate and a 6-year-old daughter. They were completely innocent and were forced to be his slaves. His daughter was adorable. I chuckled at the end, remembering her bouncy blonde curls and green eyes, just like her mum. The only reason why she didn't leave him was because he had already forcefully mated with her, and obviously then it would be impossible to leave him after that. Blake nodded in understanding. I spent 2 weeks in there, and in the middle of the second week, I gulped and my eyes started to water. He murdered them in a fit of drunken rage. It was disgusting. I heard and saw the whole thing. He left the bedroom door open. My wrists and ankles were cut to the bone from my struggling to help them. I wished that he had taken his anger out on me, not them. They didn't deserve it. I closed my eyes as the scene unfolded from the back of my mind. He had abused them to death. The mother was first, and then the little girl. He kept them in their own home as prisoners, and ended up killing his own mate and daughter. I swear I have never hated anybody so much in my life, I admitted, looking up to meet his gaze. For the first time, he leant forward and drew me into a hug. What's his name? He asked, his voice low and gruff. Jackson Dimmer. He pulled me closer and rested his chin on top of my head. I didn't bother to tell him to get off. I didn't have the strength. Although you probably don't know him, he kept under the radar for most of his life, but he does have a fake name, I told him. He perked up at that. What is it? He asked. Alex Simmons, Lyra's POV. Okay, I admit maybe I should have told him earlier. Because right now I was in the pack house, on lockdown. I I had 5 guards standing outside Blake's door, and another 10 at the entrance to the Alpha's wing. It turns out he actually did know who Alex Simmons was, and he managed to punch a few holes in the wall and destroy the corridor we were in. I swear if the situation we were in wasn't serious, I would have burst out laughing at his temper tantrum. It was seriously amusing. So right now I was trying to figure out a way to get to his conference room to help him with Jackson. When Blake forced me to climb onto his back so we could get to the pack house quicker, I asked why I could shift and run myself. All I got was a deep growl from his wolf. I really don't like his wolf. He's demanding, possessive, and fucking annoying. He also gets jealous easily. So does his human, you idiot, my wolf muttered dryly. By choosing to ignore her, I went on with devising a plan to get past those guards. I knew the conference room was a couple halls down, and he had gotten his beta, generals, and whoever else to find a way to track down Jackson. Yeah, somehow the faggot had known I was going to tell Blake and hightailed out of the Pax land, which probably would have taken a couple hours if he lived here. I was wondering why Blake had locked me in his room when he should have known I would find a way to get past those guards. He seriously underestimates my awesomeness. Although he was smart enough to lock the balcony door, but not smart enough to lock the large windows surrounding it. But I had to find a way to make sure the guards didn't hear me, because if one decided to check on me, I was screwed. So I walked into the bathroom and turned the shower on. They probably thought I was having a shower, but that was to make them think that. Walking out of the bathroom, I put some music on from my phone, turning up on full. I made sure I closed the door quietly behind me. Then I heard the guards start talking, probably thinking that I wouldn't hear them. Ha! Blake would kill them if he heard them. I remember him saying to them, "You are to be alert at all times. No one is to go in and out of this room besides me or your beta. Do you understand? Also, no talking or playing on your phone unless it's an emergency." Rolling my eyes, I knew they needed more training. If these were his best, then I'd hate to see his worst. Padding over to the window quietly, I unlatched the lock and lifted it up carefully. Once it was open enough so I could slip through, I laid flat on my stomach and pushed myself through the gap. Times like these, I was glad I didn't wear dresses or skirts often. I was wearing light blue flexible skinny jeans with red high top Converses and a black tank top. When I finally pushed myself under, I flipped over on my back and jumped up, making sure my feet landed softly on the ground. Smiling to myself, I realized how stupid the guards were. Did they really think that I was going to have a shower when there was a chance they could catch my rapist? Looking around the balcony, it had glass railing and gray tiles. It had the odd plants here and there, and a black table with 2 chairs. Shaking my head, I got on with the job. Next to the balcony was a small ledge that went around the entire building. All I had to do was walk around till I found it. Didn't sound so hard. Lifting my leg over the railing, I held myself up so I could swing around and land on the strip of tiles poking out from behind the railings. Settling my feet on the small strip of tiles, I looked down from the 3-story level I was on. There were kids playing and adults chatting with each other, yet here I was spending my New Year's Day scaling walls. Great. Continuing on, I balanced both of my feet on the ledge and placed my hands flat on the wall for support. Grunting, I lifted my left foot and crossed it over my right, and did the same with my right foot to my left. I had a rough idea of where I was meant to be. I'm pretty sure I had to be on the opposite wall I was now. But that was just a guess. But it was still something. So clinging to the wall, I made my way very slowly across the small ledge, passing windows and other balconies. Once I made it to the corner, I saw a group of people my age laughing at some joke. One girl with blonde hair was lying on the grass floor laughing, and when she opened her eyes, she saw me. Her eyes widened comically, and a loud gasp broke through her mouth. "Oh my God," she yelled. The group she was with automatically started asking what was wrong. All she did was point at me. They all turned their heads and looked at me. Looking down at them, I waved. "Who the fuck is that?" one guy asked. He looked to be the leader of the group. He had chestnut brown hair, but I couldn't tell the color of his eyes. I think they were hazel or green, but he was tall. "I think she's the Alpha's mate." You know, the one who yelled at him, another girl mentioned, and wrapped her arms around his waist. They were probably mates. Then what the hell is she doing up there? He's gonna crack the shits, you know, the leader pointed out. His mate sighed and pressed a kiss to his cheek. I could tell he instantly softened and turned around to give her a hug. Rolling my eyes, I decided to give them an answer. Blake locked the door and placed guards everywhere. Had to find a way to get out, I yelled. Surprise, surprise. A guy with blonde hair coughed behind his hand. You're gonna fall. The leader smirked, glaring at him. I knew I could do this with my hands behind my back. No, I won't. And besides, he's being an ass. A few of them chuckled, and the leader shook his head, a small smile on his face. You know you're 3 stories above the ground, he chuckled. Way to point out the obvious, Gabe. The girl leaning against him muttered. A dry sense of humor radiated off her. Your girlfriend's right. You are kind of slow, I informed him, trying to keep a straight face. The group around him laughed, and his mate smiled smugly. See what I have to deal with every day, she cried, a look of horror on her face. Gabe just frowned down at her, and then a mischievous look flashed in his eyes. I really have to remember that I'm still climbing a house. Well, since you don't want me around, I'll just be leaving, he pouted, and got up. The girl rolled her eyes and looked at her fingernails. Okay then, I guess we won't be having sex tonight then. Have fun wanking, she smirked. Annoyance clouded his features, and in a flash he was hovering above her on all fours. Everyone in the group backed away and gave them some privacy. If it's you watching, then sure as hell I will be, he growled. It was then that I decided to give them some privacy. She laughed and pushed him away. Sick bastard, she grumbled, and then turned to look at me. See you around? I'm Opal, by the way, and the idiot behind me is Gabriel, Opal said hopefully, her light brown curls wrapping around her face from the wind. Sure, I'm Lyra. We'll see each other when I find a way to get my mate off my back for a minute. And when I find that rapist dickhead, I almost added in. She nodded her head before Gabriel took her back in his arms. Lyra, you don't hear that one often, the blonde one muttered, and I tuned out from there. Why does everyone say that? Shaking my head, I continued across the wall. I wasn't too worried about Jackson. The only thing I was really worried about was the other girls he might have taken. I was seriously going to smash his head in if I find out he's been taking other girls. Making it to the other corner, I moved my hand around to grab onto something. When I felt a window pane, I gripped it and quickly moved my feet around the corner. The ground was a far distance down, but since I recently shifted, it would be a piece of cake if I had to jump. Continuing to walk, I came across a window that looked more sturdy and sound, proof than the others. When I looked inside, I saw a large wooden conference table. There were black desk chairs all around it, and only half were full. Blake was sitting at the head of the table with a serious expression on his face. A guy with light brown hair and dark green eyes was sitting to Blake's left, and I had a feeling that he was the beta. The other people who were sitting around the table were men who looked like they had spent their whole lives training and lifting weights. They all had bulging muscles and scars over them. Waving at the window, Blake's beta noticed, and his eyes went as big as saucers. His mouth gaped open and flapped around like a fish out of water. I could hear him stuttering slightly. I knew he was catching Blake's attention. So we'll have to... What the hell are you doing, Kyle? I heard Blake ask through the window. I knew this room was sound-proof inside and out, and that the only way to hear was if you were near a window. Making a quick decision, I opened the window to the room on the right and jumped through just as Blake looked out from the room he was in. Nope, don't see anyone out here, Kyle. Are you sure you're okay? I couldn't hear the rest of what he said, but I knew Kyle would look like a weirdo for hallucinating. Looking around, I realized I had stepped into another conference room. This one was smaller and had a TV, but the theme was much the same. Walking over to the door, I cracked it open and waited to hear anyone walk past. You would think that the guards would have realized that I had left the room. But no. They were probably scared that the Alpha would kill them or something. When I didn't hear any noises, I slipped through the gap and shut the door quietly. Turning around, I walked to the nearest door on my left and pressed my ear against it. He could be anywhere by now. I bet he probably joined another pack. Why don't we warn all the packs in the continent about Jackson? A man yelled. He probably escaped to Russia. Why don't we look for him there? Another one put in. Why the hell would he go to Russia? Why not another country? Rolling my eyes, I decided to put them out of their misery. I slowly tried to knob, but realized the door was locked. So I pulled out a bobby pin from my hair and unlocked the door with a few flicks of my wrist. Well, that was easier than I thought. Pushing it open, I came face to face with a table full of men. You're all idiots. He's the beta to the Blood River Rouge pack. Lyra's POV. It was dead silent for a few seconds before everyone except Blake, Kyle, and the few men sitting close to Blake started yelling in rage and displeasure. What the hell? What happened to discussing this like civilized people? Everyone calm down, Blake roared, and everyone winced and sat back down. Except me, I just walked further into the room. Who gave this girl the right to come in here and feed us bullshit? Everyone knows that the remaining rogue packs have been killed. The guy who thought Jackson ran off to Russia exclaimed. He had short, cropped graying hair and light blue eyes with a roundish face and sharp features. I'm sorry, but at least my facts are more believable than yours. Russia? Huh. You've got a crazy imagination. I chuckled. His face turned a deep shade of red, and I heard a couple of chuckles that were smothered by coughs. Who do you think you are? He hissed, a venomous look flashing in his eyes. A person with obvious common sense, unlike you. I raised my eyebrows, waiting for his comeback. You bitch, he snarled. I felt Blake tense up beside me. Well, technically I am one. Watch what you say to my mate, Sandon, Blake growled. I heard a few gasps from the men. Looks like they didn't know who I was. Mate? She's your mate? No shit, do you think he would defend me if I wasn't his mate, or even lie about it? Blake growled at the tone in Sandon's voice. No offense, Alpha, but she isn't what you call. Sandon clucked his tongue. Luna material, but there are other girls for the job. He didn't get to finish that sentence because Kyle picked him up by his shirt and dragged him out of his chair. Do you realize what you're saying, mutt? Kyle snarled. Of course I knew Sandon had to submit to the beta, so I was enjoying the show while it lasted. Sandon growled, but lowered his head by an inch and scowled at me. When Sandon didn't reply to Kyle's comment, he got extra pissed. It's means. You're challenging the alpha for his mate. You should know what happens after that. Kyle yelled in his face and dropped Sandon. He managed to land on his feet. It seemed like that scowl was permanently stuck on his face. It was only then did I realize Blake was directly behind me and shaking like he was being electrocuted. Sandon only further pissed both the leaders off by siding back in his chair. Was he asking for a death sentence? Sandon, rise! Blake growled, using his full alpha command. Everyone in the room visibly shook from the power in his voice, and most heads were lowered in submission. I heard Sandon whimper, and I smirked to myself. Serves him right. When Sandon stood up, his legs were shaking, but I'm pretty sure Blake didn't notice. Someone's in deep shit now. First you treat my mate as if she was a lowly servant, insult her, say she's unfit to become your alpha female, and then you say I should have another female, who is not my mate, become your alpha female. That is unacceptable, and you have not only disrespected your Luna, but me as well. Blake booms, an impassive expression on his face. I'm pretty sure mine was like that as well. I give Blake a sidewards glance and turn back towards the cowering man. I had never seen this side to Blake before. I wasn't exactly sure how I should react. Should I tell a joke to lighten the situation, remain serious like he is, or start going all macho and yell at Sandon? As your alpha and pack leader, I am chagrined by your actions, and that is why you have been dismissed from the board for good. Thank you, Clyde Sandon, but you are not allowed to enter this room again. You have been stripped from your title, then and are now a regular pack member. You may leave. Blake spoke like he had done this 1,000,000 times before, and didn't show any emotions whatsoever. Of course, Sandon was not expecting to be fired from his position, and an angry look entered his eyes. Looking at me, Sandon exited the room as if to make me feel guilty. Yeah, right. When Sandon had shut the door behind him, or rather slammed, everyone let out a breath of relief. I looked around confused. What? Am I missing something here? Blake chuckled at my confusion before a serious look took over his face again. "How did you get out?" Blake demanded. I could tell a slightly pissed-off wolf was trying to break through. "Easy. Climbed around the wall of this place. You friend there, Kyle, wasn't hallucinating." I shrugged and watched as Kyle did a fist, pump in the air, and let out a laugh. "Told you so," he shouted, but another man cleared his throat and walked up to me and grasped my shoulders before a huge grin formed on his mouth. "What the foo?" "Thank you," he cried before dropping to his knees in front of me. What the hell was wrong with these people? They were serious one minute and the next laughing and joking. I turned my head towards Blake and gestured to the man sitting at my feet. Blake cleared his throat, a smile dancing on his lips. Jonathan, you might want to get up." Blake trailed off. The man coughed awkwardly and got up. "Jonathan Granger," he stuck his hand out, shaking it wildly in his, "I am forever in your debt." I looked at him weirdly. Was he for real? Yeah, that son of a bitch Sandon, we all hate him. Glad he got kicked off. We couldn't find a valid reason to kick him off before because it wasn't enough. "Thank you," he cried. Whoa. Was this guy high? Whoa, as in Hermione Granger? Granger? I asked, getting excited. I loved comparing people to movies and books. It was fun. Yeah, that's what my mate said to me when I first met her. I was tempted to call my 5-year-old daughter Hermione, but my mate persuaded me to choose another name, he chuckled. I like this guy. He doesn't seem so bad anymore, and he was around my age. "How old are you?" I asked boldly. 23, let me guess, you're 18? I nodded to his guess and smiled. "Can I call you Jono? Seems more fitting." "Sure," he smiled. "Well, as nice as this is, getting to know people, we really should try to find this guy so I can kill him. So," Blake gestured towards the chairs. Checking the link between us, I could feel his jealousy and I smirked. All I was doing was talking to Jono. No harm done. "Well, let's catch this mofo," I said, and sat down in one of the spare chairs. The room went quiet again and everyone was sharing glances. The Alpha, you." A short man with light brown hair stuttered, looking wildly between me and Blake. "What?" I asked, confused. No one was giving me hints at what I should be doing. They were just looking uncomfortable and kept their eyes away from me. Weird. "Oof," I groaned, as I felt my chair being wheeled somewhere else. Looking up, I saw Blake giving me a hard stare. He kept dragging me till I was at the head of the table with him. What was the point of that? "They expect you to sit with me. After all, it's a joint job. Also, 'cause no other female has ever really been in this room, it's sort of not allowed." I gave him an unimpressed look and sank further into my leather chair. I don't get why women can't be in this room. At least he hasn't kicked me out. "So, have we any idea where Demir is?" Blake cleared his throat as if nothing had just happened. "Did I not just tell you?" "He's the beta of a Rouge Pack," I exclaimed. Did no one believe me? "Sorry, Lee, but there aren't any more Rouge Packs left. The council destroyed them." Blake apologized. I only got angrier. "Then explain why I was taken to one," I growled lowly. A look of surprise fitted across his face. "But I thought you spent the whole 2 weeks there," he whispered so only I could hear. "Most of the 2 weeks. He brought me to his Alpha. They have a whole pack in Canada, with houses and everything. Do you ever recall another notification from the past 4 years that another Rouge Pack has been destroyed? The last one was 10 years ago." His eyes looked down as he tried to remember, coming up short. He met my eyes with astonishment. But it can't be. They council have checked everywhere on this continent. They can't have missed anything." He frowned, a hardened expression on his face. "Retard, do you not realize that the council have done nothing? They don't give a shit. I've looked through so many records of past checks and videotapes, and all there is are broken contracts and dates that were never set in stone, that were abandoned." I insisted. I had to convince him of this. If he thought that I laid back after what Jackson did to me, he's so wrong. I checked so many records and hacked into so many computer files. I knew the council did nothing. They were just there for power. "Please tell me you're joking, because if you are, I will seriously not be happy with you," he growled. I could see so much doubt in his eyes, doubt of the purpose of the council. "You should know I don't joke about this stuff," I whispered back angrily. I wasn't sure if I was winning or not. He let out a frustrated sigh and leant back on his chair. "I believe you," he said loudly. I could tell he was saying to truth. I smiled. I had awesome persuasion powers. Okay, so we've established that Jackson resides in the Blood Rivers territory. Now we have to alert neighboring packs and head over there, he said with a hint of finality in his voice. Wait, when did we establish this? Kyle asked, a suspicious look in his eyes. Just then. I rolled my eyes at Blake. Did he not know that no one else heard us? Can we just move on and make a plan? I sighed. What was with these people? Did they always stop to ask questions? Yeah, good idea, alpha female. Jono smiled. I frowned at the name, but let it pass. Looking back over my shoulder, I saw Blake shaking slightly, so I elbowed him just under his ribcage. Get over it. He's got a mate, I snarled in his ear. Fine, let's just hurry up so I can kill the guy already, Blake said with annoyance. Someone's impatient. Well, I can't really say that I'm not either. Let's get on with it then. I planted into Blake's bed as he took his shoes off. The guards had already left, and I had no idea why they were needed in the first place. I still managed to escape them. What the hell? I yelled. As Blake started taking off my Converses, I gave him the evil eye and stuffed my face back into his pillows. You're gonna get my bed dirty, he whined, and in response, I gave him my finger. There's a thing called a washing machine. You use it to clean things, I informed him, but my voice was slightly muffled by the pillows. If you don't get up, I'll take the rest of your clothes off as well, he threatened, but I stayed still. He wouldn't. Then I felt a tugging at the back of my jeans. He was probably just trying to make me think that he would actually carry his threat out. Then he pulled my jeans all the way down. I froze. No way. My undies were exposed. I kind of felt like I was naked. And the asshole was staring in a freakishly pervy way. I was wearing white lace panties, and I knew on some parts of my ass it was slightly see-through. Oh shit. I was only wearing a flimsy tank, top, and panties with nothing else. Sexy. I felt Blake's breath against my ear, and he pressed himself fully on top of me. I gulped and started struggling from underneath him, but then my wolf just had to mention that she was enjoying this. Traitor. I was still struggling. My waist and upper body were trying to move away from him. He suddenly rolled off me and pulled me towards his body, which somehow was only wearing boxers. I felt him drag the cover over us, and he brought me even closer to his defined chest. What are you doing, Blake? I asked him. He seemed slightly out of it and was mumbling weird words. I could tell we were both tired, but do you see me stripping someone and holding them against my chest? I think not. We had spent hours in that room, talking about ways to capture the alpha and beta, because if the pack didn't have them, they would go insane and break up. Simple, but good plan. The only problem was I had been there 4 years ago, and it had probably grown in numbers since then. And I haven't eaten. I was hungry. Blake, you didn't answer my question. What are you do? How'd you get out? He grumbled against my head, the fan of air sending shivers up my spine. Damn, so much for holding in reactions. You still haven't. How'd you get out? He asked again, as if he didn't hear me talking. Easy. Climbed out your window and walked around the side of the building. I shrugged. I thought I told him that before. You climbed out the window, he roared, pushing me back so he was griping my shoulders at arm length and looking all around my face with a frantic look in his eyes. Well, yeah, I thought I told you before. Did you fall? Are you hurt? Oh God, what if you... Geez, dude, calm down, I'm still in one piece. See? Wait, don't see. Keep your eyes in my face. I rushed, trying to pull the blankets further around me. What were you thinking? You could have gotten hurt, he exclaimed, running his eyes all over my body. I didn't, so I trailed off. He seemed not to like my answer, as he growled at me and shoved me underneath him. What was with him tonight? Blake, you need to stop. I'm all right, no harm done? Wait, I think I left something on, I thought out loud. There was something on the back of my mind that kept nagging me. The shower. Scrambling up from underneath him, I sprinted to the bathroom and found the shower on. Turning it off, I turned around to find Blake standing in front of me with an amused expression. You turned the shower on? He chuckled. Smart, would have thought of that. I felt sorry for him. He had an enormous water bill to pay now. The shower had been on for hours. I also had music on, but I think my phone died. You mean this? He smirked and showed me my phone. Reaching for it, I jumped in the air, only for the phone to be placed higher than before. I scowled at him before jumping again, only to miss it by a couple inches. I'll show him. I took a few steps back before charging at Blake and jumping on his chest. When I had a good grip on his head, I started climbing on top of his shoulders and placing my knees at the nape of his neck. Grunting, I stretched further for my phone as he moved his hand behind his head. I wiggled forwards and leaned over his head, my phone only inches away. "You should stop right there," he said huskily. I looked down confused, till I saw my crotch was almost pressed against his face. I had forgotten that I didn't have pants on. This is really awkward. Pushing back, I landed on my feet and reached for a towel behind me and wrapping the white cotton around my waist. I saw his hand had lowered, and there was a dazed look on his face. Taking quick steps towards him, I snatched the phone from his grasp and skipped out of the bathroom. "Thanks, Blake." I smiled sweetly, before grabbing one of his sweats as pants for the night. "He can have the couch?" Lyra's POV. "Do you always eat breakfast like that?" Blake asked, amused. What had I done to deserve this? All I wanted was to eat my food in peace, not get pestered by my mate. For about 10 minutes, all Blake had done was comment at everything I did. "Do you ever close your mouth when you eat? Is it just me, or does your head look like a bird's nest? Do you always eat this unhealthy? Why don't you ever cross your legs? Make me a sandwich, woman." Okay, the last one had earned him a slap. Did he seriously just ask me to make a sandwich for him when I couldn't pick up a knife without setting the kitchen on fire? He was annoying me, and I was secretly hoping a tile from the roof would fall down and hit his head. "Do you ever shut up and piss off?" I grumbled. Was I not allowed to eat like a normal person? What's wrong with shoving food in your mouth? It wasn't like anyone was watching. Besides the chef, Flo was really cool. She was like a mother to me, and she also liked the fact that I ate more than this kitchen could hold. She was currently making my 5th batch of pancakes while Blake was taking bites out of them once in a while. "Nope, you'll miss my smexy face too much," he teased. I rolled my eyes and took another bite of banana. "I hope he goes to hell." "What face?" "All I see is messed up shit," I replied dryly. "That's what he gets for trying to make me uncomfortable." Now that was just mean. He was cut off by his phone ringing. He held up a hand and mouthed, "We'll continue this later," and walked off with his phone pressed against his ear. I smiled when Flo placed another plate of pancakes in front of me. Damn, I love pancakes. "You guys are really cute together." "Huh?" I chalked back on a cough. Did she just say we looked cute? "It's funny, really. Who knew you were Blake's type? I was sort of expecting someone more cooperative. But you're feisty and unafraid. It's good for him. You're putting him in his place. Most girls, hell, no one would dream of standing up to him," Flo said, sitting down next to me as I consumed her delicious pancakes. "I honestly think we would never work out. I mean, we're so different." I trailed off. She gave me a warm smile in return. "Oh, you have no idea how you guys complement each other. I've already noticed a difference in him. When he arrived home, he seemed so happy. I swear I haven't seen him smile once since his parents died. Then suddenly, poof! You arrive, and he's smiling and laughing again before he was so serious and couldn't take a joke to save his life," she said in horror. "Whoa, I thought he was always that annoying." "Where you're sarcastic and feisty, he's cocky and uses people's weaknesses to his advantage. I'm sure he's made a few jokes about how you can't cook or clean," she hinted. I haven't really noticed his cocky demeanor yet. God, I hope I don't. I don't know if I'll survive or not. But we have nothing in common other than general stuff, like colors and movies. You're both confident. It's actually really creepy. I swear you guys can take up a whole room just from being overly confident. I was expecting his mate to be shy so he can give you some confidence, but no, you guys just have to scream confidence. She muttered. I laughed at her. I didn't really think we were that confident. I mean, sure, I can easily talk to a crowd and stuff like that. You're both leader types, which is a good thing. I also heard that you can resist an alpha command, which is good. Otherwise, he would be trying to control you with his voice, so you wouldn't disobey him. You guys are also very stubborn. Never seen such a stubborn woman like you before. I've never seen any woman like you before. I mean, I have seen people who are similar to you, but never carry the same strength. she commented. I felt like blushing, but I held it in. I had to give it to her. She was good. I guess I've also never seen anyone insult him before. It's really weird how he lets it slide as if you threw a feather at him. You call him names all the time. Dickhead, retard, asshole. You get my drift. He never gets angry at you, only at the surrounding people. I've also never seen him jealous before. It was usually bang a girl, then move on. When a phone call came that said that they had found his mate, he wasn't so ecstatic. He thought you were going to be one of those gold diggers who would only want him for his power. Trust me, I'm like his personal psychologist. He talks to me about everything. But when he got there, he realized you weren't like the other girls. You ignored him and treated him like you guys were equal. You didn't worship the ground he walked on. You didn't try to kiss or touch him. And you didn't even try to strike up a conversation, she cried. Was I supposed to? I asked. Did I do something wrong? It wasn't like he told me to do those stuff. Besides, it was funny watching him get aggravated. See, there you go. You don't apologize straight away. That's good. You wait till you see what you did wrong, but you didn't do anything wrong. You tried to find answers before acting. That's what a good leader does, she said sternly. For some weird reason, I felt proud at having her give me a compliment. Last time I felt that was in elementary school when my 5th grade teacher made me come up the front of the class and announce that my painting was top of the class. It made me feel all mushy. I didn't realize that Flo had walked off till I felt Blake's presence next to me. Morning sunshine, Blake joked as he slid into the same seat as before he left. You saw me 10 minutes ago, I grumbled. He'd never be put down by any comments. He just always brushed them off. I know, but for some reason I feel a lot better today, he said. A smirk was placed on his lips. And you couldn't have told me this earlier. It's like 12. I was just caught up, he said wistfully, a faraway look in his eyes. Thinking about killing Jackson, right? Have you told the fighters? I asked. We were leaving tonight, and I was yet to convince Blake to let me go. If he didn't, I would sneak out and get there somehow. He told me that Kyle would be in charge while he was out. Yeah, they're getting informed about the details. We're taking about 115 trackers. I nodded, taking in the information. He probably had thousands of fighters waiting at command. I'm still not allowed to go, aren't I? I groaned, waiting for the not-so-surprising answer I would receive. His forehead creased, and he looked pained for a second. Can't risk it. I won't have you near the guy. Besides, there'll be a lot of fighting, he told me. I felt like growling at him. Did he not know that I could fight? I swear he treated me like I was a little child sometimes. I was not staying here while he went to fight. No way. So what if there'll be fighting? You know I can fight. Why won't you let me go? I repeated for about the 100th time. Because, he trailed off, I can't have you get hurt. Even a scratch would kill me inside. Look at you. You might be tall, but you're extremely skinny and you barely have any muscle. I'm worried that you'll get a serious injury. I'll heal in minutes, I cried. And so what if I barely have any muscle? Do you even have any females fighting? I asked. My voice was rising with each word. No, he sighed and rubbed his forehead with 2 fingers. I don't. Only men can fight for the pack. Women stay at the pack house. No woman fights, he said firmly. No women fight. Is he for real? What if I wanted to fight? Why would you do that? Why can't girls fight? I growled. I could feel my wolf rising and my eyes flashing electric amber. Because you guys could be easily killed. He shot back, a snarl etched on his face. Are you saying that I can't defend myself? How do I even know that you can fight? He yelled, ignoring my question. Bitch, I'll show him. Fine then, I snapped. I'll fight one of your men. Now. I smirked, feeling the hunger of my wolf rising to have a good fight. Adrenaline rushed through my veins at the thought of fighting again. I loved it, the feeling you get when you fight someone, not to sound too conceited, but I knew I was good. What? I won't have you fighting my own men, he cried, fear flashing through his cold, gray eyes. Why not? You know I'll find a way to get to that pack, with or without you. Wouldn't it be better to know if I could at least fight? I told him. I knew I had won this fight. His eyes shifted nervously and his hands clenched. Fine, he snarled. We'll do it now. But if I win, I get to come with you. You have to promise. Fine, he sighed. I promise that if you win, you can come with me, he grumbled, and I almost shrieked in happiness. He couldn't back out now. Once you made a promise to your mate, it was physically impossible to break it. You would feel immense pain and your wolf wouldn't come out for weeks. Smiling at him, I skipped up the stairs to get ready. Now, if you feel any pain or uncomfortableness or fear or... I get it. If I want it to stop, all I have to say is the magic word. I rolled my eyes. I was pretty sure he had chosen someone he thought that was almost physically impossible for me to beat, but what he doesn't know is that I had taken on much worse than who was standing in front of me. This guy was huge, almost 7 foot tall, with wide bulging arms and very tan skin. He looked like the Terminator, but with extra height and muscle added to him. His arms were crossed over his bare chest, and tattoos were all over his back, chest, and arms. Black hair stood up from his scalp in a buzz cut, and he was equipped with cold, brown eyes. He was looking off to the side where some of the other fighters were sitting. We were currently in the training yards, and were gaining quite a crowd. Most people were betting on Andrew, the Terminator guy in front of me, and I knew why. I looked like a scrawny ant compared to him. Even though I was taller than some of the fighters here, I still looked like a midget. "You ready?" Andrew growled. He probably thought this was a piece of cake. I gave him a smile and cracked my neck from side to side. "Yep." He stood still for a moment before going into position. His arms were fisted by his side, one raised further forward to block attacks, the other ready to hit. His legs were spread equally apart and were bent at the knees, but I noticed that he had a lot of his weight leaning on his right leg. He probably thought I was stupid because I hadn't moved from my position. I had my arms lazily by my side and my left leg further behind my right. Waiting for him to move, I could feel Blake's eyes trained on me. Seeing Andrew's left leg twitch, I watched in boredom as he swung to hit underneath my knees, trying to knock me onto my back. Knowing his actions already, I jumped into the air and did a backflip while kicked my leg out at the side to hit his left temple. He staggered back, cupping a hand to his temple, without stretching one in front of his stomach as defense. When I regained my balance, I spun around and kicked my right leg into the back of his knees and gave a punch to his right temple. He would have the worst headache tomorrow. He groaned again and lifted his leg to kick me in the jaw, but I caught it with both hands and twisted it to the left, leaving him flat out on the floor. I could hear gasps and muttering all around me, but I could only focus on this fight. The adrenaline was kicking through me, and I could feel a sadistic smile playing on my mouth. Andrew lifted his elbows up and pushed himself off the ground, but before he could do anything, I had slammed his head back down and hit the pressure point behind his neck, making him cry out and drop to the floor. Anger was rolling off him, but I had won. Then I heard the telltale signs of someone shifting. Bones cracked and his form stretched and convulsed into his wolf. Blake was shouting something, but I couldn't hear it. His wolf towered over me by at least 2 feet, his teeth on show for me, and eyes as dark as night. His wolf was a chocolate-brown color like his human eyes. Andrew took a swipe at me, but I ducked and rolled underneath him. I had only fought a wolf once, but that was a guy shorter than me. This guy was huge and pure muscle. Doing a round house kick, I hit under his jaw again and heard a sickening crack. He whimpered and I took the chance. I kicked his front left leg and jumped onto his back, grabbing the scruff of his neck with my right and his left ear with my left. He was bucking wildly, trying to get me off, but I wouldn't budge. Then I felt him start to roll over. I quickly lifted my right elbow and brought it down on the spot where his neck and spine met. He froze and started to fall down even more. If I didn't get off, I would be squashed. I jumped off Andrew and rolled away from him. Standing up quickly, I checked my surroundings. Andrew was lying lifeless on his side. He was still breathing, but I could tell I knocked him out. Then a body bundled into me. My instincts took over, and I was about to push them off, but I felt the familiar tingles shoot up my spine. Blake, I knew I shouldn't have let you fight. You could have died. I should have stopped it when he shifted, he mumbled while stuffing his face into my neck. I had tied my hair up so it wouldn't get into my face, but Blake just pulled it back out. I'm sorry. I should have believed you when you said you could fight. He was one of my best. I just don't get it. How long have you been training for? He muttered, confused. Damn, I would be confused if one of my best got beaten in a couple minutes. 2 years. I told you, I fought for my pack. No, but how'd you get so good? I know the pack doesn't teach you that stuff, he mumbled against my neck. The trainer had a bit of a soft spot for me. I had double the training hours, I admitted. I felt him stiffen before he pulled away and growled. Soft spot, he yelled. I shushed him and looked around. Everyone had left. What the... I don't remember him telling everyone to leave. Even Andrew was gone. I told him what happened. Not that kind of soft spot. He was like a brother to me. Besides, he was 35 years old. Ew. I looked at him weirdly. Jealous freak. Sorry, but I don't want you to come tonight, he whined. I rolled my eyes and gave him a light punch on the shoulder. Man up. I'm coming whether you like I or not, I said defiantly. There was no way I wasn't coming. I wasn't expecting him to shift. You know, I specifically told him not to hurt you, just pin you down. Nothing else. He rushed. I saw pain in his eyes. Geez, dude, I didn't get hurt. You don't have to worry. I don't even have a scratch on me. See? I showed him my arms, which didn't have any signs that I had just been in a fight. He let out a breath and grabbed my arm. I wasn't expecting you to win. Now I have to take you to a Rouge pack. Just fantastic, he said under his breath. I laughed and followed him. He shouldn't have promised. Lyra's POV. Okay, this was really awkward. I was in the hall, standing up the front with Blake, who was gripping my hand tightly. I was discreetly trying to tug my hand out, but each time I did, he would just tighten his grip. About 200 eyes were trained on me, and all I was doing was shifting from one foot to the other, and a projector was behind me, showing the people who were here, where the Rouge Pack house was. I was the only girl here, and I'm pretty sure that I was the first. Everyone kept giving me confused looks, except the ones who witnessed the previous fight, but the rumor was spreading fast. Unfortunately, Andrew was unpermitted to fight because of attacking an alpha female. It didn't help that he shifted, Blake's words, not mine. So from here to here is where we will close in. No women or children are to be harmed. You are only to attack for defense. Remember, we are only there for 2 men, not 50. Blake spoke. I whipped my head to look at him. I had missed the whole plan. I was pretty sure Blake knew that as well because he gave me an unimpressed roll of his eyes. Meeting dismissed. See you in 10 minutes at the circle. What the hell was the circle? Once everyone had filed out, I spun to look at Blake. What's the circle? You didn't listen to me at all, did you? He cut me off, all of his amusement suppressed. You didn't answer my question. A place in the middle of the woods. Now what did you hear? The end part, I said weakly. Damn, I had to stop daydreaming. He groaned and covered his eyes with his left hand, a stressed look taking over his features. I bit my lip, waiting for his answer. At least I knew the world wasn't going to end. I could always improvise. You should pay attention more often, he cracked a humorless grin. I know, I muttered, diverting my gaze to the screen behind him. What I would do for a time machine. You should be a better mate. Shut up, bitch. But luckily for you, the plan hasn't changed since the board meeting where you barged in. I sighed in relief. He was right. I was lucky. I hated spacing out when important information was being told. It happened a lot during school. I wasn't exactly what you would call a teacher's pet. I was more of a teacher's nightmare. Yeah, I chuckled awkwardly. So we leaving in 5 minutes? What the hell is she doing here? What was the alpha thinking allowing a female to come? She's just going to be a burden. She'll make the job take longer. Heard she beat Andrew in a fight, that's why he's not coming. Danny's probably lying. Wait till I show them a piece of my mind, my wolf growled. For once in my life, I agreed with her. The comments were getting annoying and I wanted heads to roll. Then it suddenly stopped. I looked around and everyone had scared and shameful expressions on their faces, except Blake, who looked pissed off. I saw some of the men rub their temple. Then it clicked. Blake had used the pack, Link to tell them off. Using the pack, Link doesn't hurt, but when the alpha or beta is angry and using it, it can cause migraines or a slight throbbing. It depended on how angry he was, and right now everyone seemed to be nursing a sore head. There were a couple groans of pain, but Blake didn't seem to notice. He just kept watching his pack with guarded eyes. You didn't have to do that. I told him I would have happily yelled at them. What do you mean? He said innocently, but I felt the lie in his words because of the mate bond. Tell them off. I could have done it myself, I huffed. They were talking about you. Do you really think that they would have listened? I haven't properly bonded you to the pack yet. When this mess is sorted out, I will still have to mark you as well, he added under his breath. He won't be marking me anytime soon. I mumbled. I wasn't tied to my old pack anymore, and I wasn't bonded to this pack either. Did that mean I was a Rouge? God, I hoped not. I never want to be a Rouge ever. I know for sure, though, that the mark from my old pack has faded. The small blue circle invisible. Okay, you all know where our landing zone is. Now go into your designated plane groups. Well, meet each other at 47-00634, 69687100. Okay, just off the border of Maine into Canada. Go. And with those few words from Blake, everyone was shifting. I averted my eyes when they took off their shorts, and for added measure, Blake stood in front of me, crossing his arms over his chest. When all the men had shifted and headed north towards the plains, I looked over at Blake, only to have my eyes pop out of my skull. He was naked. I sucked in a breath and spun around, the mental image of him bare making shivers erupt all over me. Oh, God, I was turning into a horny bitch. Please, please, please let him not think that I saw him. Thankfully, I only saw the back part of him and not the front. I'm pretty sure I would have dropped to the ground if I did. I'm turning all gooey. He was all muscly and... You all right there? Blake smirked, making me spin around, but I firmly kept my gaze to his face. He saw that, and an amused chuckle escaped his lips. You know I'm naked, right? No shit, I said under my breath. I kind of figured that one out on my own. Aren't you going to get ready? After all, we have a plane to catch, so you need to shift. I narrowed my eyes at him. Shifting involved taking your clothes off? I know, so turn around so I can strip. I rolled my eyes, expecting him to object. Sure, was he for real? No arguments or objections. Whoa. I guess our relationship, if you can call it one, was getting slightly smoother. He turned around, leaving his backside bare. Damn him. I clenched my eyes shut for a few seconds before taking my leather jacket off. Once I had taken my tops off, I pulled down my black jeans and underwear. Then Blake started having a coughing fit. I looked up to see he had turned around, but was looking up to the sky. Can he not follow instructions? I knew there was a reason why he agreed so easily. Asshole. Blake, I growled, and walked up to him, not caring for my clothes draped all over the floor. I pushed his shoulder down so he was my height. Yeah? You motherfucker, I said calmly and punched his jaw. I'm pretty sure he already seen all of me, so I wasn't really bothered that if he looked down, he would see all of my parts. He staggered back and my wolf whimpered. What'd you do that for? Why can't she just keep her mouth closed? Because I told him to turn around. Fuck, Lyra, it's not like you didn't see me just then. Blake growled. I rolled my eyes. He didn't tell me not to look, did he? Well, you didn't tell me not to turn around, I argued, crossing my arms over my bare chest. Yeah, but I'm your... You know what? I'm sorry. I should have respected your privacy, and I shouldn't have turned around. Can we not let this affect our situation and pretend it never happened? He said, sadness lurking in his eyes. I guess. But if you really wanted you see me naked, why not just tell me? You make me sound like a perv. Maybe 'cause you are on... I am not a perv, he cried in horror. I smiled before poking him in his side. He yelped and wildly spun his head around to look at me. I gave him a cheeky smile and shifted into my wolf. My bones cracked and fur sprouted out of my pores. I looked down at my paw and realized I was a black wolf with a bluey hue. I snatched up my clothes with my mouth and trotted over to Blake, who had shifted as well. We almost had the exact same coloring, but the blue in my coat was the difference between us. His eyes were a black with blue specks. Also, I was a couple inches shorter than him, but I was still extremely tall for a girl. Hell, even for a guy. Tilting my head to the side, I silently asked him which direction we were meant to head. He gave me a wolfish grin before sprinting into the trees. I took off after him, my tail wagging. He slowed down slightly and turned his head to look at me before sprinting even faster. I knew what that meant. He wanted to race. Well, buddy, the race is on. Lyra's POV. Oh my fucking God. I'm pretty sure I was dreaming because no one can own this many private jet planes. Close your mouth, Something unwanted might fly in there. Blake smirked, bursting my bubble. Douchebag. Crap, I breathed. How many planes do you own? I swear there were 20 planes here, all under his command. Lost count, he shrugged. I gave him an incredulous look. How the hell do you lose count of how many private planes you own? Babe, I think you forget that I'm in charge of a quarter of the shifters in America. I get a lot of money coming in. I also own a successful law firm. Nah, really? I thought your money grew on trees. How stupid does he think I am? I'm not your babe. Thank you very much. I refuse to be called a baby pig. I scoffed. A few men behind me started coughing, and I gave them a wink. As you wish. Blake smiled, doing a mock bow. I rolled my eyes and pushed him to the floor. Weirdo. He landed on his back with a surprised look on his face. He glared at me, and I just sent him a sickly sweet smile. No one calls me babe and gets away with it. Bitch, he coughed. If you haven't noticed, I kind of am one. You should be more creative with your insults, I informed him, loving the annoyed expression on his face. He groaned and tried to stand up, but clutched his back in agony. I think you broke my back, he gasped, checking the bond. I felt no pain, only suppressed amusement. You'll survive. Now get up, I growled, smirking down at him. People froze around us. I saw some of them hesitating to help their alpha stand up. Don't worry, he'll be fine. Now, go and do whatever you're supposed to. I yelled and watched the men slowly back away, leaving it just Blake and me. Nice try, buddy, but if you haven't noticed, I couldn't feel any pain. I smiled evilly at him as he stood up, a scowl plastered on his face. Damn, he muttered, looking at me from the corner of his eye. I flashed him an award, winning smile, and waited for him to lead us to our plane. He dusted his back and chuckled at me. Come on, we've got to get going. He pushed me towards the first plane, which was slightly smaller than the rest. It had 2 thick red lines going parallel around the entire plane, and on either side, 1 large red circle with thin black lines inside it, the Pax mark. It also had Wilson in vertical black print on the rudder. The rest of the plane was painted white. The runway was all around the plane's resting area, and there were lights everywhere around the track. When we were standing in front of the plane, Blake directed me towards the staircase that leads towards the door. It was steep but easy to climb. Stop pushing, I whined when Blake started nudging my back. I wasn't hurrying for him. Hurry up then. Make me. But as soon as I said that, we were already at the top. He gave me a smug smile, but kept pushing me inside. Why did all of Blake's things have to be awesome? The interior of the plane was amazing. The carpet was a dark gray, almost Blake. The seats were a cream leather with heaps of space and gadgets fully equipped with a TV and remote. There were about 10 seats, and at the back was a hall with a couple doors. Here, if you want to go to the toilet, it's the first door on the right, and if you're tired, you can push down your seat or go into one of the rooms at the back. They're all on the left-hand side. Blake informed me while shoving me into a seat. He walked off into one of the rooms, doing what? I had no idea. Relaxing, I waited for a few minutes before Blake came back carrying some pillows and his phone. He looked deep in thought as he sat down, still staring intently at his phone. His eyebrows were creased and a frown on his face. I didn't question it as I looked out the window, willing for the plane to start. Could all passengers please buckle your seatbelt? We will be departing shortly, a voice came through the intercom. There were only 2 passengers. Why the need to be so formal? How come there's no one else besides us? I asked Blake. What was wrong with sharing a plane with the other men? It wasn't like they'd eat me alive. Because it would be uncomfortable for them. We haven't had a female come with us before, not to mention a future alpha female. Just go with it, he shrugged and sank into his seat, closing his eyes. Turning to my side, I faced the window, pushing my seat down a little to get comfortable. Hi! I shot up when a squeaky voice brought me out from my daze. What the foo? Oh, right, I said sheepishly as I saw the blonde in a black suit greet us. She looked like an air hostess. Blake sent me a look before looking down to his phone. He was playing Temple Run. Nice, Blake. We're on our way to kidnap 2 men, and all you can do is play Temple Run. I'm Veronica, and I'm going to be your hostess today. If you need me, all you have to do is press the red button under the flap, she said lowly. Then it clicked. She was trying to seduce Blake. Her gaze was firmly set on Blake as she spoke, and then I realized how slutty her clothes were. She was wearing a very tight white sleeved shirt, and it looked like she wasn't wearing a bra, with a black skirt that reached just under her butt, including 5-inch stilettos. She also had a black jacket that stopped just under her ribcage, and her hair was styled in a tight bun. She also wore too much makeup. Her lips were a blinding red, and I was surprised her eyeshadow didn't weigh her eyelids down. "Thanks," I said, and grabbed the remote for the TV. The window was open, and it was then I realized that we had already lifted off. How long was I asleep for? Turning to look at Veronica, she was still standing there with her hands on her hips. "Ah!" She was waiting for a reply from Blake. Nudging Blake, I gestured to the hooker in front of us. He gave me a confused look, and I sighed irritably. Grabbing his phone, I opened his notes and typed a message. "She's waiting for a reply from you." His mouth opened wide, and he gave her a weird look. "Ah, thanks, Vicky, but my mate and I are fine." He stressed the word mate. I coughed and took his phone back. Her face clouded with rage, and she stomped away. "Veronica, you idiot!" "Whoops," he said, lifting his shoulders. I rolled my eyes with a smile before snuggling back into my seat. I would have felt sorry for the girl if she hadn't been desperate. It was kind of pathetic. She wore such little clothing that if she hadn't been a wolf, she probably would have been shivering. Thank God it didn't snow down here in this part of Florida. Otherwise, I would have been freezing in my jeans. Luckily for us, we have extremely high blood temperatures, so in the middle of winter we could wear shirts and shorts and not be cold. It was bloody awesome. Coming back to reality, I saw a bottle of water and chocolate chip cookies resting on my lap. When did that get there? Shrugging my shoulders, I picked up the packet and ripped it open, tilting it over my mouth so it would fall in. After the last one fell from the packet, I scrunched it up and chucked it into the pull-out bin from the armrest. "Was there another pack?" Pig Blake coughed from next to me, flashing him my middle finger. I savored the chocolatey taste the cookies gave me. They tasted really good. "If you're going to bag me about my eating habit, you might as well F off," I grumbled, taking a sip from the water bottle. "Can't. We're on an aeroplane." "Really? I thought we were swimming." "There's a thing called jumping. It's where you—" Yeah, I get it. No need to tell me." He rolled his eyes. "Besides, you should thank me. I asked Venice for the cookies." "Whoa, that must have been so hard. I can't believe you did that for me," I muttered dryly. "You also said her name wrong. It's Victoria." "Veronica." I heard a snarl from behind. Was that bitch spying on us? "It's not like you're any better," he coughed. "You got her name wrong as well." "Well, not as much as you did," I yelled, narrowing my eyes at him. "Oh, yeah. I bet that you got it wrong more than me," he said smugly, tilting his head to the right slightly. "Bitch, please. We both know that's not true," I snapped, placing my hands on my hips. "Bring it, asshole. Watch what you call our mate. Fuck off. Nobody likes you." "Bullshit. You're worse with names than me," he growled. His eyes were getting darker. He saw me fighting back as a challenge. Why the hell would I want to challenge him? "And how would you know that, may I ask?" I snarled, leaning forward. How the hell did we start an argument over that slut's name? "Because, ladies and gentlemen," I coughed when the pilot said gentleman, "that thing next to me is nowhere near a gentleman. We have begun our descent. We will land in 10 minutes. Please buckle your seatbelt for landing. Thank you." "Why did you cough in the middle of his speech?" Blake asked warily. "Oh, no reason." I smiled innocently. He doesn't have to know what I think of him. No reason at all. "Well, I hope you know I drugged your water so you won't be able to fight." "What?" I spluttered, chalking on the water I was drinking. He better be joking. "Calm your tits. I was joking." "Screw you. Group A, you'll be attacking their right wing," Blake yelled, pointing to the group on the far right side. "Group B, you'll be attacking center front with me," Blake gestured to himself and continued on. "C, you'll be going center back and evacuating the women and children, and Group D, you'll be attacking the left wing. Go," and again everyone shifted without warning and took off. Taking a deep breath, I uncovered my eyes. "Next time, warn me when your men are going to strip. It's pretty disgusting." I shuddered. I seriously don't want to see 100 naked men in their late 20s. I don't think anyone really does. "Okay," he chuckled. Rolling my eyes, I went behind a tree this time to strip. I don't trust him when it comes to that stuff. Ignoring the sudden need to howl, I picked up my clothes again with my teeth and ran to Blake, who had shifted as well. He swung his head to the left of him, indicating where we were going to run. The forest around here wasn't very dense, but was full of tall trees with thin bodies. The colors were all light greens with browns. Everything was blurring together as I ran after Blake. I trusted that he knew the way. After an hour of running, Blake came to a stop, and then all of a sudden 20 men emerged from behind the trees, all of them sniffing the air. Luckily, they all had their shorts on. Running back a few meters, I found a large tree that was extremely wide and bushy and shifted behind there, pulling my clothes on. Affirmative. All our men in surrounding areas have called clear. An unfamiliar voice confirmed when I followed the scent of Blake. Blake turned around after hearing my footsteps and nodded in my direction. "Good. I'll tell them that we're heading in now," Blake replied. A few moments later, a hazy look went over his eyes, and it looked like he was being pulled into another world. His usual gray eyes turned black and his pupils were barely visible. Then, all of a sudden, his head jerked forward and his eyes returned to normal. He started nodding his head, and the men took off barefoot. "We're just going to crash their party?" I raised my eyebrow at him. I remember our plan being a bit more complicated than that. "Well, that's the plan," he smirked. "Now I want to kill Jackson. Let's go." Running alongside him, the forest was getting noticeably denser, and the trees seemed to loom over you like a cage. It looked familiar. Sniffing the air, I picked up numerous scents, including Jackson's. "I can smell him," I informed Blake, ducking to avoid a broken branch. "Everything here seemed to want to kill you." "Good. That means he's here. Anything seem familiar to you?" he asked. "Yeah, the creepy forest we're in. I remember it. Also the scents. Most of them are fresh," I noted out loud, taking in our surroundings. "What the hell?" Blake trailed off as we approached the end of the forest. There were no guards or security bells or anything. Just silence. Something's not right. Walking further, I saw Blake's men hesitant to step further than the tree line, as if there were booby traps everywhere. Everything looked the same, the houses, shops, and training yards, nothing deemed to have changed. It was like a deserted city. The Alpha's house, which was right in the middle of the large pack space, was exactly the same as well. A 3-story house with a large garden for meeting or gatherings. What confused me was I-8 could still smell scents from the Rouge Pack. "I want the whole village to be searched." I heard Blake yell from behind me, but I continued weaving in and out of the small houses, searching for anything new. The Rouge Pack wasn't that big. It had around 500 members, only 50 properly trained. I knew for a fact that the Alpha was a sick and cruel man who used the Alpha title for his own benefits. Of course, Jackson was like that as well, except he lived a separate life from the pack. He lived in Maine to get info from other packs. One case was Blake's pack. Jackson would say that his family had died and he would slowly gain the trust of the pack till he could get valuable information from them. Freezing, I heard a shuffle come from the house in front of me. I pushed the door open with ease. It wasn't locked. Peering in, I walked around the entrance till I heard the point of where the noise was coming from. Sliding the doorknob around, I pushed the door, but it wouldn't budge. Trying again, I shoved it with my shoulder. Nothing happened. Growling, I took some steps back and sprinted toward the door, ramming my shoulder into it, breaking it off its hinges. A crack echoes throughout the dusty house. Ripping the door off, I chucked it on the ground next to me. Stepping into the room, a horrible potent smell wafted into my nose, decaying flesh. Gagging, I stepped further in, heading towards the messily made bed. It was obviously the master bedroom with an ensuite and large drawers. But what grabbed my attention was the small bundle under the blankets of the double bed. Slowly making my way over to it, I ripped the covers off, only to gag. There was a body of a 20-year-old woman. Her body was naked and bloodied. Her hands were covering her face, and cuts and bruises littered her body, a scene immediately begun to play in my head. She obviously struggled, as there were bruise marks on her wrists and ankles. She was naked, and a man's scent was recently on her, so I'm guessing she was raped and beaten to death with numerous objects. Blake, I screamed, knowing that he would hear me even from the distance. I sent him a wave of distressed emotions through the bond. Picking up the blanket, I covered her back up to her face. This is why I hated this pack so much. The males were trained from birth to control the females and not to give a shit if they hurt them. They were even rewarded if they did. Hearing footsteps, I turned around to see Blake and a few men run into the room. What's wrong?" he asked frantically, his eyes darting around the room, looking for danger. I pointed to the bed. "Dead body." That's all it took for him to hurry over to the bed and carefully take the sheets off, he gasped when he saw her. "Beaten and raped," I said sadly. "She struggled also." "How do you know that?" he asked. Shrugging, I looked away from the body. Took a pre-course on forensic psychology and how to deal with evidence and cases like this, learnt what types of killers do what and why, I told him. Also how to read evidence and recover what happened. Exiting the room, I had a feeling that she wasn't the only one. Going into the next row of houses, I busted down the only locked door in the house to find another naked and beaten girl. I didn't bother calling Blake this time. I just went on to the other house next to it to find the same case over and over again. Shit! I cursed when I recovered another body, this one much younger. She looked my age when Jackson first kidnapped me. If I hadn't have escaped, I probably would have ended up like these girls. Feeling a tear escape my eye, I angrily wiped it away and sprinted out of the house. "Blake, we might have a—" I paused, looking over at the dead bodies scattered all over the floor. They were all girls, but were wrapped in the sheets from the beds. "You figured it out as well," I stated. He had the same idea in mind as well. The other houses on the left side all have girls like these, exact same cases except some with fewer cuts. All were naked, though. I said to him quietly. He nodded, but then we heard a male voice break the silence. "Alpha Blake, there's a male scent over here." Murmurs broke through, and all the men went into a sprint to get to one of the houses on the opposite end we were on. "Stay right here. Don't move," Blake warned, and before I knew it, I was alone. Growling, I was about to call out for Blake when a hand pushed down on my mouth and another wrapped around my waist, dragging me back. "Get off me!" I screamed, kicking and thrashing. Why didn't I smell the scent beforehand? I was about to spin around to kick the man behind me when all of a sudden a cloth with chloroform was pressed against my mouth. Holding my breath, I clenched my fists and swung around to hit the person in the nose. A sickening crack came after my hit. But then I was punched in the stomach in return, causing me gasp and the chloroform to leak into my lungs. "Well, if it isn't Little Lee, do you remember who I am?" "Jackson." Then the lights went out. Talk about déjà vu. Blake's POV. "Where did you smell it?" I rushed, eager to catch whoever might have information on this. "When I came here, I expected a fight, not to find dead bodies of naked women." Feeling a slight tingling sensation cut through my stomach, I lifted my shirt to find a bruise flash up, but then disappear. What was going on? "Mate," my wolf snarled, my eyes bugged. "Oh no, I left her alone." "Quickly, find something that might lead us somewhere. I have to check up on something." "James, follow me now." I yelled and sprinted in the direction of where I abandoned Lee. Coming to a stop, I spun around to find no one. "Lee! Lyra!" I yelled. Fuck! Alpha, what's wrong?" My third in command asked, his eyes wide and nervous. "My mate's gone. That's what's wrong," I growled and started running around the houses trying to pick up her scent. I came up with nothing. Scent don't just disappear. "Oh fuck. Oh no. Crap. Ale." Jackson had stolen the supplies of the chemicals that disguised our scents. He used it on himself and probably on Lyra's as well. "Mate," my wolf repeated. I felt my skull shake with the force of his growl. "James, gather up the men. My mate's been taken by Jackson." "What